Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Take the Lead, Change the Game, a podcast for women leaders looking to deepen their knowledge and skills and find enjoyment in the process. We are powered by Software Leadership. Software Leadership is a cohort-based experience designed to fuel courage and ignite impact among women professionals. I'm Mindy Galati, and this is Lindsay Goldford Gray. We're the co-founders of Safra. Together, we bring a blend of leadership coaching, strategy, and lived experience to help women navigate challenges, seize opportunities, and lead with confidence. We're here together today in the beautiful Hilgers House in Austin, Texas. We're about to do a presentation in a little bit. And today we're going to be starting a 3-part series on goal setting as we head into the new year. And this week we're kicking it off with a discussion around visioning, and we're going to help kind of guide you thinking about this at the end of the year. It's always a good time to think about goal setting for the next year and beyond. So Lindsay, why is visioning important to you?
Yeah, so when I think about visioning, we can all set goals, right? I mean, year-long goals, but really those goals are most effective for the next year if we know where we want to be in 5 years. So when we think about who we want to be in 5 years in different facets of our life, it's best to do that so that we can back that up and then figure out, what do I want to do this year? So Mindy, when you think about, when you're sitting down to do goal setting for yourself, how do you frame it for yourself?
Yeah, so I like to do goal setting throughout the year, but particularly at the end of the year to get ready for a new year. And for me, it's really visioning out far first. So looking at sort of a 5-year vision and then backing it up kind of year by year, and then even making it smaller chunks of time. The way that I like to vision is to really think about sort of the categories that categories of life that I'm trying to create a plan or a vision around, goals around, and not just something huge. So I think some people get stuck when it's like, okay, what's your 5-year plan or what are your goals?
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, what are you talking about? Like there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And so what I like to do is really think about sort of the buckets of life. So we all have different parts of our lives. And that's how I start the visioning process is what do I want to, where do I want to be in 5 years? And really envisioning that related to my health and well-being, like me as a person.
Yeah.
And that can include lots of things, but I start big. So Mindy as a person, health, well-being. Then I think about professional. So professional, career, work. And then I think about my relationships, so friends and family and beyond. And those are like the primary buckets I start with. How about you?
Yeah, I think about those 3 buckets too. And I think it looks different for each of us, right? Like we each have different professional goals. We each have different relationships in our lives, and health and well-being looks different for each of us. I mean, I think for a lot of us as women and as professionals and as moms, when you think about like your own health and well-being, it's like, well, I've never set a goal, in my own health and well-being because it's the last thing on my list. And I think about it only in terms of like, oh, I wish that I took care of myself.
Yeah.
But if you set a goal, even a 5-year goal, and then work backwards, you can achieve those meaningful steps towards increasing your health and well-being.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a better way to bite off a very big topic. And I think people avoid what I have found in coaching and working with people is it's hard to identify this if you're just looking too broadly. But if you really say, okay, in the next 5 years, what's my goal for my own health and well-being, and start there, then you're isolating it a bit, but it's still broad enough that you can really be creative and where do you actually want to go. And it shouldn't just be take care of myself.
Right, sure.
It's gotta be something a little more than that.
Yeah. So talk to me about your health and well-being goals for yourself, because I know we've talked about this some, and I really like sort of how you have walked this journey yourself. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the goal I'll talk to you all about is around my meditation practice. And so last year, sort of last summer of 2024, just dealing with a lot of pressure and stress from work, from life, from relationships. I really said, I have got to get away every day that I can kind of clear my mind.
Yeah.
And you always hear people doing meditation. And I've even been to like Buddhist retreats where we do meditation, but it never was a daily practice for me. And so my goal was, I'm going to get on a daily practice. And so I got the Headspace app. So the goal was, I am going to get on a practice.
Yeah.
And the key word was practice. So it was not, I'm going to go to a Buddhist retreat and for 3 days, meditate and then come home and never do it. It was every day I need to do this. So then what I did was, that was the vision. That was the goal. And then I worked backwards. Okay, well, what does that look like?
Yeah.
I'm a morning person. So I was like, this has to happen in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I found the Headspace app, and I love the Headspace app, by the way. Like, I use it every day. But it was funny because I never put a time or I never had like, I guess, a goal or a vision of what I wanted that practice to be, other than just a practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to start really little. And Headspace offers a 3-minute meditation. And it seems silly to me now, a year and a half in.
Doesn't seem silly to me. I'd still be at the 3
But
minutes.
I could only do 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But I did 3 minutes every morning for like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And some days it was like, that's all I could really muster.
Yeah.
And then I found myself sort of gradually being like, oh,
I
need a little bit more. And so
Yeah.
Headspace moves you up. And I moved up to
Headspace does it for you?
No, but there's options. But
Okay.
and they'll send you like a little note that says like, are you ready for more? And so they gamify it, which is nice. And then I was like, okay. And I moved up. And now, since really June of 2025, I do 30 minutes every morning.
That's amazing.
And on the weekends, or when I don't have to rush somewhere or take the kids to school, I can do an hour.
Yeah.
And that has become my practice.
Yeah.
So it's not, again, meditation isn't about like achieving a number, but to me it was like a practice. And now, because I gave myself the space to make a practice, whatever that looked like, it's really become that. And I do it every single morning, almost without fail.
That's so great.
How about you?
Yeah. And the health and well-being space, I had a long time goal of completing a half Ironman triathlon. And for those that don't know, a half Ironman triathlon is a 1.2 mile swim immediately followed by a 56 mile bike, immediately followed by a half marathon. So it's a fairly long, especially for me, not being super fast, a fairly long athletic endeavor. And I did one full marathon back in 2008. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And I've done a series of half marathons, but like that's, 2 to 3 hours,
After
2.5 hours. Right. And so, I had signed up for one in Waco in 2020 during COVID because, the world kind of shut down. And so I was doing that, but then it got canceled due to COVID. And so then this year, as I was, had in 2024 transitioned out of the CEO of the nonprofit, had some, additional time. And I was like, I want to do that. One, because I wanted to not just like sort of knee-jerk react to the next professional opportunity and really take that time and space, but also because this was still on my bucket list. So, I got a great software app, where it had my training plan, and then I had a coach, and I did it in June of 2025. It's
amazing.
It was, challenging, but it happened.
Yeah,
so
that's so awesome. Yeah. And I think that that's the you have to have a vision.
Yes.
And you don't need to know exactly what it's going to look like. I mean, you had a particular half triathlon. But you didn't have like everything down. For me, it was
I had no idea what I was doing.
Meditation practice. I don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah.
And so the other kind of fun thing about, I think, is the journey of like, and I say like stake your claim, like write it down. Like, I am going to have a meditation practice. You don't need to know what's going to look like. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh, I have a meditation practice. Like that's the visioning also, is saying to yourself, like, I have completed a half triathlon, or I do have a meditation practice, or I did, a bodybuilding competition, whatever, or I have, become vegetarian or whatever. It's like, it's so fun to watch yourself get there.
Yeah.
Like, I love that part of it, is like, oh, look what I've done. And that's why I think goals are important, is because those of us who are overachievers, oftentimes we forget the journey.
Yes.
Because we get somewhere, but we didn't have we always are
check
achieving.
done.
We're like,
yeah.
but now it's like, watch how cool that was to get there.
Yeah, for sure. When you think of professional goals, do you want to give an example of sort of some visioning that you can do around professional goals, or even a specific aspect of professional goals?
Yeah. And professional goals are huge. So, like we could spend hours and hours on this, but I'll narrow it in terms of, a professional goal that I had when I started my consulting firm. And so it was around the financial piece. And so the visioning that I did way back in 2016 was, I want to make a certain amount of money every month. And that was the goal.
Yeah.
And there was no way that was going to happen the first year.
Oh yeah.
Not the second year. Right.
Yeah.
And I knew that, but I didn't set an easy goal.
Yeah.
I looked out 5 years. I looked out 5 years and said, this is what I want. This is what I will make every month. And I said it to myself. And then I worked backwards. And so the important thing, just like with the health goal, is like, you have to name it.
Yes.
You have to say, I want to make
this is what I want.
This is what I want.
Yeah.
And you have to understand there's a process to get there.
Yes.
But I think if I would have just said, I want to have a successful consulting firm.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have worked for me.
No.
If I was going to say that this is when I wrote down, this is how much I want to make a month. And I did it by month instead of the whole year, because for me, it made more sense. Like, this is what I want to bring in every month. For everyone else, it's going to be different.
Maybe seasonal.
And it may be, a promotion or like a job title, but you need to write it down. You need to mark your territory.
Yes.
That this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
And then everything will start to lead you to that finish line.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that is especially challenging for women, because there's a societal and a cultural, especially around money, there's a societal and a cultural expectation, like, oh, we don't talk about that. So then people say, oh, I want to grow my business, or I want to grow my firm. And that it's not, and you can say that in public, but you got to name it in private, and you got to enlist champions to help you get there.
Yeah. And the one thing, I'll say is, Lindsay, when we were working with the women that we're coaching, we push some of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How much do you want to make a year?
What does that mean?
We need your number.
Yeah.
And I know that's uncomfortable for people, but what it did was it made them write their number down and tell it and speak it out loud.
Yep.
And guess what? They can start planning how they're going to get there.
Yeah.
And so, and I will throw in a quick book recommendation. There's a book called The Psychology of Money. I read it probably a year ago. I'm actually going to read it again. And I just saw the guy speaking on a podcast. I think it's important to read that book to understand your psychology around it, because there are these barriers. It's oftentimes women have a hard time speaking that and saying this is how much I want to make, because it feels like, I don't know if I should say that out loud, but that's what holds us back. So I'm going to put a plug in for that book.
Yeah. One other thing I want to say related to the money piece professionally is that it's something that in certain circles, women feel like they can't talk about openly. In other circles, there's this messaging that unless all of you, success is defined by how much money you make.
Yes.
And unless you are striving towards a private jet, you should feel ashamed. And that is also not correct. Yeah. And so it really depends on what is right for you and what you want your life to look like and what you want your family. And so as you're even thinking about these different buckets of life, they are separate, but they all affect each other.
Yes.
And so what you want your family life to look like, whether you want to work flex hours or go on trips or whatever, is all impacted by the other pieces.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
What about you with a professional goal?
Yeah, I mean, one visioning exercise I like to tell people is picture yourself in 5 years and you are winning a professional award. What is it for? Right? When you think about yourself being so proud to accept a professional award, what is it that you have achieved?
Yeah.
And I think that helps. One of the things we were talking about before we got on this podcast is just that goal setting, especially when you're talking 5 years out, can be really overwhelming. And so when you sort of laser line that focus of what do you want to accomplish? What mark do you want to leave on the world in 5 years? That again, just brings a lot of clarity to the noise of the day-to-day emergent versus urgent. I mean, there's the Eisenhower matrix, which is like, try to figure out what things are urgent and what things are important.
Yeah.
Because they're not the same. They're
Yeah.
often not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that, the award framing. I think that's really good. I also think you can frame it as, you've been asked to speak at a conference, you've asked to give a keynote or be on a panel.
Yep.
What are you speaking about?
Yeah.
Like, what were you at, and how you had to professionally push yourself to be that expert on the panel.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to do it. So you really have to vision and think about and imagine yourself there.
Yeah.
It's very important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you have anything else you want to add or other exercises that you like to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about, like, I love to do kind of visioning board type things at the end of the year. I like to do, if you can find resources for something called a time travel meditation, which is really where it's basically visioning, but it really takes you forward. I think those are good tools. I also think that if you are really stuck, and you should have a trusted group of people around you that will push you. And so sometimes I will go to people. I don't really get stuck in visioning because it's I'm a strategist. I can do this, but a lot of times I will ask my closest people who know what I'm doing, like, where do you think I should go next? Like, how could I push myself? So I would think about that too. Bring in some people to push you a little bit.
Yeah, I think people to push you, and also, people who can potentially better than you identify, like, what are your stressors? What are your, because I also think sometimes we have internalized some of these narratives, right? Like, success means growth to, 7 figures or 8 or 9 or whatever figure firm, when in fact, like, really, if the person is honest with themselves, like, they would rather, work solo or have one employee or whatever. It can be different for everyone, but I do think we internalize narratives sometimes when deep down that may not really be what we want, and the people around us can see it, but we can't.
Yeah. And I think it's always good to have people challenge you on your goals. Either that you're not going far enough, or that seems unrealistic. And I think that's what you brought up, like, professional, health, personal, like, relationships, they're all tied together. So you can't compartmentalize everything. But I think that's when it's good to have people around you to say, like, oh, you're trying to grow your business, or you're trying to do this professional thing. How is that going to mix with your kids? Or your goal for your kids is this, like, I think you need to spend more time on your professional side. Like, I think it's good to have people give you some real feedback in your goal setting. And I think a lot of times we think this is a solo conversation with yourself, but I like getting feedback on it.
Yeah, totally. And at the end of the day, you're the only one who can make those decisions for yourself.
Yeah.
But other people can often, one, see things in you, but also, like, for example, we both have kind of middle school age kids and are heading into a season of life where, like, we will inevitably spend less time with them, which means different things for our season, right? As we head into high school and then college and beyond with our kids. And so people who've gone before us can sort of give us a preview to what that might look like and help us as we're thinking about all these things.
For sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to go give a chat to the Austin Young Lawyers Association, but we'll see you next week to talk about the SMART goal framework and how to start thinking about some of these actual goal settings. So
and if you want to put any of your goals in chats or let us know, and we can chat about them as well.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.